In this video, we'll be covering the concept of Big Bang. And in Racket, Big Bang is how you can create programs by representing a world state and using user input like key presses and mouse events to update the state and use the state to draw an image, which then becomes the image that's presented to the user. So let's write a program here. So it's a function that'll produce a window. It'll make a window once we call it. But let's say it's called letters, and we want to use string as our state representation. So this will actually take in a string and output a string. So let's say start a program that shows the letters a user has entered. Define string. We start with a string, and to call the Big Bang, to start a Big Bang program, we call the Big Bang function. We want to give it the state, the initial starting state, and then we give it a number of handlers. This will handle things like drawing the program and handling key inputs. So in this case, let's use the toDraw handler, and we'll write a function. The first part tells us we're using a function for the toDraw, and the second part is the name of that function. So we'll write a function just in a second called drawString. And let's write another function to handle the key events. So on key, we want to call a function. We'll call it handleKey, and we'll write that in just a moment. And for Big Bang, we don't need any tests because there's no way to test user input because user input can take any form. So we'll omit the tests for now, but we will be testing our individual functions like the drawString function and the handleKey function. So first, let's define a background, which we'll draw our program on. I'll say it's a rectangle, 600 by 300 pixels, solid and white color. So let's write our first function, which is the drawString function. Let's say this takes in the string as a world state representation and produces an image of what the world should look like. So we'll say produces an image of the given string on a white background. Let's write some tests here. So if we pass it the string test, we want to return an image of that text test. Let's say 30, font size 30 and color red. And we want all of that on a white background. So we'll use background, which we have defined above. This is one example. Let's do two more examples. Let's say a different string, Fundies. We want to print out Fundies. Maybe we have an empty string, in which case we don't want to print out anything on the screen. Now let's define the body of the function. So we've done this a bunch of times. Draw a string, takes the argument string, and we want to produce the image of the string, size 30, color red, on background. Let's close out the function. So this is our toDraw function. This will produce the image we want based on the given string. Now we have to handle when the user presses a key. So let's write that function. We call it handleKey. So this one will take in the world state as a string, and it'll take a key event representing the key that the user has pressed. And we want to produce a new world state. So in this case, we want to produce a new string. Let's say this modifies the game state based on user key inputs. Let's write some tests here. So let's say we start with an empty string, the user presses A, then we want to produce a new string that just has A. If we already have some characters and the user presses another key, maybe the space, we want to produce a new string, which is A and then the space. And let's do one more example where the user's already entered two characters, say A and C, and then they type in another character, let's say D, and so the string we want to produce is A, D, and D. Now let's write this function, handle key, takes in the string and the key event, which we'll call KE, and very simply we would just want to append to the string the key that the user has pressed. So now, if we run our definitions, let's see. So this is where we put the name of the function, so I mistakenly wrote string. Over here, we'll put the name of the function in letters, evaluate our definitions again. All our tests passed, and now when we call the letters function on an empty string, let's start with an empty string, then we'll have a window, and now we can type, and keys we enter show up on the screen as text. So this has been an example of a big bang.